Welcome to Off the Page, the show where we talk with Colorado authors to get the story behind the story. I'm Stacy McKenzie, a librarian here at Mamie Doud Eisenhower Public Library in Broomfield, and today we're talking about murder mysteries to be exact. Later on, we're going to talk with Beth Groundwater with her mystery, A Real Basket Case, but first, we're very happy to have Mike Befeler here with us. Hi, Mike.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And we're here to talk about your latest mystery, Retirement Homes or Murder. Now, this is a very interesting genre of literature. It's geezer lit. Tell us a little bit about what geezer lit is and how you got started writing it.
Well, first of all, geezer lit is at the opposite end of the spectrum from chick lit. In a geezer lit mystery, the old guy has to use his wily ways to solve a crime given any disadvantage of his aging mind or body. And I've had some interesting feedback on using the word geezer. I got an email about a month ago and said, you know, it's okay for older people to call each other geezers, but someone younger shouldn't call an older person a geezer.
Okay.
But I can get away with it because I'm a geezer in training.
You think you'll be writing geezer lit for a long time?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. You know, it's been something that I've had a lot of fun doing. And, you know, dealing with older characters has been a real education for me, and it's kind of a preparation for what's about to happen to me. So.
Mike, you have some short stories out. Tell us about those and what they're about.
I've had one that was published in an anthology titled Who Died in Here? And the theme of this anthology was it had to be either a murder or a death taking place in a bathroom. Oh. And so very interesting location, of course. And so my story was Never Trust a Poison Dart Frog, and it's got two twists in it and ends up with a dead body in the bathroom. So
very interesting. Okay.
And then I also have an Amazon short called The San Loritz Caper, and this takes place in a retirement home, so it's another geezer lit story, and it has a retired PI who solves the great cookie caper going on in his retirement home.
Okay.
So that can be found on Amazon.
So we should look for those. Terrific.
Yep.
Well, turning to your most recent book, Retirement Homes or Murder, tell us about your main character, Paul.
Okay. Paul Jacobson is an octogenarian, kind of a crotchety fellow with short-term memory loss. And Paul likes to cuss. He hates lawyers. He detests going in the ocean, although he lives in Hawaii. He abhors taking pills, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with computers. So no email, MySpace, YouTube, instant messaging for Paul. But as you get to know him, you find out he isn't the curmudgeon he at first appears to be. He's kind of like a fritter, crusty on the outside and warm inside.
Good description.
And you know, he kind of grew on me as I got to know him. And one of his key characteristics is his short-term memory loss. But his symptoms are very specific. He remembers things fine during the day, but overnight, everything goes blotto. As he likes to say, he still has a photographic memory during the day, but overnight, someone removes the film.
Well, obviously your character's older, but why did you choose a retirement home as the place for everything to take place in the novel?
Well, it was, Stacy, was inspired by people I met when my mom and stepdad lived in a retirement home. I witnessed firsthand the pathos of the aging process, but also the vitality and sense of humor of the people living there. And I just met some great characters, and that was kind of the genesis for the idea.
And why did you take us to Hawaii with Paul in your book?
Well, first of all, that's where I grew up, so spent a lot of time there. And then my mom and stepdad were living over there, so we'd get over periodically to visit them. And if you look at the cover here, if I can pick this up for a second, this takes place. This beach here is Lanakai Beach on the island of Oahu, and these two islands are the Mokulua Islands. And this leftmost island is where the climax of the book takes place, and Paul must face his greatest fear in order to survive.
You mentioned that you'd visited your family in retirement homes. Did you do any other research, or what experiences gave you so much background on being in a retirement home?
Well, that was really it, and it's interesting. I wasn't planning to write this book at the time. My folks lived in a retirement home, but I was impressed by the people I met there. And I spent several days when my folks first moved in where I did every event with them. I went to all the meals, I went on picnics, I went to concerts. I just basically immersed myself to help them get settled in. And along the way, I met these great characters. And then on visits coming back, one time for several days, I stayed in an apartment right in the retirement home. So this was all grist for the background. And you know, so when I got the idea of writing this, there was this big backstory of stuff that had accumulated that I was able to utilize.
So your main character, Paul's a bit of a detective. Where did you research to get that sort of detective part of your character?
The simple answer is lunches. And what it was is I went to a mystery writing conference, or excuse me, a writer's conference a number of years ago where a detective was speaking. And I approached him afterwards and I said, can I buy you lunch? I'd like to pick your brain a little bit. So we went out to lunch and I asked him all kinds of questions. He was very open and helped me out in doing that. I also did the same thing with a friend who's an assistant district attorney. Took him out to lunch, got things answered. And recently, although it was after this book was written, I had a chance to follow a detective around for a day who's with the Boulder County Sheriff's Department. And I bought him lunch in exchange for all the good information he was giving me. I'd also say another great resource where I live in Boulder is that there's a Boulder Police Department Citizens Academy I attended, and also a Boulder County Sheriff's Citizen Academy. And those are great resources for learning more about the police procedures and what is done. So that's really helping me with my current books that I'm writing now.
Wow, that's a lot of great help from the detectives. They're willing to give their time and help.
I mean, I found them very open and, you know, sharing things. I've had several say, you know, if you run into a problem on a later book, there was one detective I called up and I said, hey, I'm planning to do this. Does this make sense? And he gave me some suggestions on what would be credible. So that's always very helpful.
You do presentations at nursing homes and go give talks. Tell us about what you talk about when you go visit the retirement homes, and how are you received by the residents there?
Oh, well, this has been a lot of fun. I've talked now at, I think, about 21 different retirement communities around the area. And basically, I have three themes I talk about, which are aging, short-term memory loss, and relationships. And as an example on the relationships, Paul's a widower. And in the United States, there are 4 times as many widows as widowers. So if Paul is up for a little romance, there's ample opportunity. And he avails himself of that opportunity and has a romance with a young chick in her 70s. And so I talk about these types of things. And the folks in retirement homes are great. They you know, jump in, they ask good questions. And I always know that if I'm successful, if no one falls asleep and no one dies.
Yeah, that's the mark of a great presentation.
Those are the 2 benchmarks at the end of it.
And your website, MikeBefeler.com. What can we find when we go there? Tell us a little bit about what you've got on that website.
Well, first of all, the homepage has some general information on the book and on my upcoming book. And then there is a page that deals with issues of aging. There's a pointer to my blog, and then events. And it lists on a monthly basis what's coming up. And I make sure to update the event part of that at least once a month. So there's a good list of what's coming up over the next several months.
That's great. So these geezers need to get online and go to your website and see what's going on.
Well, what's interesting is in the United States, only 35% of families headed by someone 65 or older has a computer, and only 29% uses the internet. But when I talk to people, particularly in the Boulder County area, they're much more computer literate than the country as a whole. So many of them are online.
So what have you got coming up next? I hear there's something coming out in 2009 for us.
Yes, this is the second one in the Paul Jacobson Geezerlit mystery series. And this one is titled Living with Your Kids is Murder. And Paul comes to Colorado to live with his son, Denny, daughter-in-law, Allison, and granddaughter, Jennifer. And Jennifer helps him solve a bunch of crimes here when Paul gets into all kinds of trouble.
Do you have a planned end for your series? Do you know how many we're going to have?
Well, there are 4 that I've already written.
Oh, okay.
So book 2's coming out. Book 3 and 4 are with my agent. Book 3 is titled Senior Moments of Murder. It takes place in Venice Beach, California. And book 4 is called Cruising in Your 80s is Murder, and it takes place on an Alaskan cruise ship.
Oh, okay.
So I've got that one, and then I've also started another Geezer-lit mystery series.
And I see from your blog that you can access through your website that you're working on a really different kind of literature genre. You're writing a young adult novel, is that correct?
Absolutely. What happened here, Stacy, is Paul's granddaughter, Jennifer, just screamed to be a character in her own novel. So I have written now the draft for a middle grade mystery for children 8 to 12, and it's titled Jennifer Jacobson, Private Eyeball. And to get this going, what I started doing this last weekend when my 8-year-old granddaughter was visiting is I started reading it to her, and I read about 50 pages. And she was great. She found 3 errors in it that helped me get corrected, and caught on to one of the main clues.
Oh,
and I plan to continue reading it to her over the phone because she lives in Southern California.
Okay. And is she any of a little bit of the inspiration for Jennifer?
She is exactly the way I picture Paige being when she's 12.
Oh, that's terrific.
So we'll
how
see.
Fun.
We'll see how that plays out. And I'd also add that one of the things I'd love to do is read this to a 4th or 5th grade class in an elementary school. So if any of the viewers are teachers in those grades and would contact me, I'd love to do that in a classroom setting.
Sure, they could go to your website and get in contact with you.
Exactly.
That's terrific. I'm sure they will. Thank you so much, Mike, for being with us. Really appreciate you coming out.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.